Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Moved by Ms. Niedergang, seconded by Mr. Cohen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes passed unanimously. And next we come to announcements, and we'll start with Council President Cohen. Any announcements this evening?
Yeah, I just want to remind people, I think I announced this last week, but we're scheduled to have an informational session tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. about the Slow Streets initiative. So flyers went out over the weekend to the different neighborhoods which have been identified as good candidates to introduce the slow streets. And I hope that we'll get a good attendance and everybody can get their questions answered.
Great,
The Zoom
thank you.
link is on the municipal calendar.
Great, thanks. Councilwoman Fraga, any announcements tonight?
Yes, Mayor, just one. Human Services is now accepting applications for the 2020 Summer Youth Employment Program. And because of COVID, this year, their program is actually going to be a virtual one. It's a virtual entrepreneurship development opportunity for our youth. And the deadline to apply is on Friday, July 3rd. The program starts July 13th and it's going to end on September 4th. Students will be participating virtually for 15 hours per week, and they will be receiving a salary of $10.30 per hour during the time for their participation. And for more information, encourage everyone to visit the Human Services Department page on the municipal website. And that's it.
Great. Thank you. And Mr. Williamson?
Yes, Mayor, just a quick announcement. The Recreation Commission plans to hold our next meeting where a possible reopening of CP Pool will be discussed. That's this coming Wednesday, the 24th at 7 p.m. We had I would say a pretty robust meeting last Thursday. A lot of different issues came up. And so Ben and the rest of the staff are working on some possible proposals of what a reopening may look like. We also want to keep in mind that one of our neighboring towns, West Windsor, decided not to open their community pool, essentially because they had issues with the costs that would be required with meeting the distancing requirements, et cetera, and how that affects profitability and other issues like that. So we had to take a lot of those concerns to heart also. So come the 24th, hopefully we'll have a proposal that the commission believes is workable. And just want to reiterate one last thing. We're getting a lot of correspondence convincing us of why we need to keep the pool open. And I said this at the last meeting, and I'm going to sound like a broken record. You're preaching to the choir in that one. We know the pool being open in Princeton is a huge public good. The question is, can we meet the safety requirements and also make it, the main thing is the safety requirements, but also make it financially viable. So those are the issues we're going to look back at again on the 24th and hopefully come to a conclusion then.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
And Councilwoman Niedergang?
Yes, just one report, please. I just want to remind everyone that the Princeton Environmental Commission is continuing its socially distanced cleanups for an indeterminate period of time, along with our partners, the Friends of Princeton Open Spaces, Friends of Herrontown Woods, Friends of Rogers Refuge, and Sustainable Princeton, as well as in conjunction with the Watershed Institute. So again, please, when you're out and about, bring a bag with you and a pair of gloves and pick up some of the litter. You say everything pretty much ends up in our water. So by doing this, you not only beautify the community, but you protect our drinking water and the health of our environment. The Princeton Environmental Commission meets this Wednesday, and among other issues, we'll be considering the issue of the very loud leaf blowers and their connection to COVID-19. Apparently, the movement of the air generated by this increases the chances of spread between people. So that's new information on the health front that PEC will be considering. And I know when Councilwoman Fraga had talked to this, I think it came up at last week's Health Commission as well. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And Councilwoman from Lambros, any announcements tonight?
Just briefly, a reminder that the Zoom call meeting with Princeton Merchants Association and the municipality for businesses will be held again at 10 a.m. on Thursday morning. And you can get notice and information on our website. Just sign up on princetonnewjersey.gov. Thanks.
Great, thanks. And Councilwoman Sachs.
No announcements.
Okay, I had a few announcements. The first is I'm going to be holding my monthly Meet the Mayor open office hours virtually again this month on Friday from 8:30 to 10 a.m. and the login information is on the website calendar. Also, just want to remind everybody that I think we're keeping up our streak in June, so we will be having another council meeting next Monday, the 29th. This is a busy time for council for a lot of reasons, but tonight, later on the agenda, we have a series of affordable housing ordinances up for introduction. Next Monday, we're going to have the rest of the package of affordable housing ordinances up for introduction. So we hope you can also come back next Monday for that. In addition, if you are a registered voter, hopefully you've already received your mail-in ballot. And just a reminder that you have until July 7th to mail that back. You don't need postage on it, but if you prefer to stick it in a special box instead of a mailbox, there is a special box just for ballots at the municipal building at 400 Witherspoon Street. And that was set up today. So you can drop your ballot either there or in a mailbox. Folks may have seen the announcement this afternoon, but I did want to share with everybody the very bittersweet news that Chief Sutter has announced that he will be retiring October 1st. I'm glad we still have him for several more months. Nick has been a transformative leader for the Princeton Police Department. Helped to lead the department through consolidation and a series of other challenges. And for each challenge he faced, it seemed like the department got stronger and better as a result of it. And it's an understatement of the year to say he will be sorely missed. So it's not time for goodbyes yet. So I'll hold off on saying more at this point. But I just, I do want to thank the chief for all he's done for Princeton and for the department. And we're glad we have you still for another several months. Are there any staff announcements?
No, Mayor.
Yeah.
Mayor, one staff announcement. I just want to let everyone know a big turning point for long-term care centers based upon the executive order put out by Governor Murphy on Friday afternoon. Princeton Care Center in Acorn Glen will be allowed to accept visitors starting tomorrow. We went through a lot of different protocols with them to make sure that they were comfortable with this. There's a lot of detail in that guidance, and I just want to make sure it was out there regarding the long-term care centers and nursing homes. It's a good step forward, but we're going to help them as much as we can moving forward with this new change for long-term care centers in Princeton.
Great, thank you. And if there's no other announcements, we'll move on to public comments. So I'm going to start by reading some of the emails that have come in for public comment. And while I'm reading these, if you are somebody who would like to comment on an item that's not already on the agenda, there are two ways to do that. The easiest is probably if you're tuning into this via Zoom is to use that Q&A button on the bottom right corner of your screen and just type in your comment. or you can also send an email to princetoncomments@gmail.com, and we'll read those into the record. So the first comment is from Jennifer Stone. To whom it may concern, the Beta bike lanes made us feel safer to ride and walk along Hamilton Wiggins. If they were still there, we would have been riding our bikes to school, the library, the shopping center, to see our friends, etc. This summer, my friends and I would like to be able to ride into town to get ice cream, hoagies, cupcakes, smoothies, etc. Temporary bike lanes will bring more local residents into town without needing to drive, park, and pollute the air. Please reinstall temporary bike lanes on Hamilton Wiggins, Robeson. The next email comes from Jamie Stornoros, and it is the same email that we received from Jennifer Stone. So just want to let you know there's extra support for that without reading it. And then the third email comes from Janet Haru. Such an opportunity to encourage bike lanes. Have you noticed how many more people are riding bikes now than cars, now that cars have gone away? There are so many examples of how other cities are now installing bike lanes for mobility. Please never put the word sustainability in any town statement. You will always prioritize fossil fuel consumption over health, peace, regular people, etc. Protestations otherwise are just fumes. Okay. And are there any other comments for public comment?
None, Mayor.
No? Okay. I will just encourage folks who are interested in the slow streets to tune in to the meeting that Council President Cohen talked about for tomorrow night. We hear folks on Hamilton Wiggins. There are quite a few comments on that at our last meeting also. There's a group that's working on that, and we hope to have a conversation about that back at council soon. I think we said in July. Okay. Next we come to reports, and we'll go through the list again, or if people have reports, do you just want to raise your hand? Ms. Fraga, you want to start?
Mine is very quick, and only because I thought it would be of interest. Last Thursday of last week, both Tommy Parker and myself were invited by Mayor Jaffer from Montgomery Township to join their meeting to talk about our Civil Rights Commission, the process that we took in establishing the commission, and also talk about what the commission does and what the procedures are for conflict resolution. And I thought it would be of interest because it looks like it's something that Montgomery is considering. And it's great that we're able to, as their neighbor, and just as in the past, I really appreciated them sharing the resolution with us that we adopted on declaring racism a public health emergency, that the fact that we're able to collaborate that way and sharing information, and we were very happy to do it. We were actually on the call for an hour. That's just to demonstrate how interested they were in our procedures, and we were happy to join. But
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Ms. Perrin-Lambros?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that the reopening seems to have gone pretty smoothly. Everyone's being very safe through the different commercial districts. And the experiment here with one way down Witherspoon Street seems to be a big hit. There was a lot of people out and about. And in fact, that's our slogan. And I just wanted to mention that we'll be seeing things being decorated, and it should look even better in the next week or two because the Arts Council is going to help us with some graphic design and decorating. So I just want to put a shout out to the Arts Council for what they're doing, and also just again thank publicly our wonderful staff for doing such a bang up job of getting everything set up. So thank you.
Thank you. I second that. It was an amazing, pretty much overnight transformation It was really terrific. Are there any other reports? Mr. Williamson and then Ms. Sachs.
Oh, mine is not so much a liaison report. I just wanted to mention that last Thursday, Princeton celebrated its very first Juneteenth. And I thought that was awesome. It went really well. It was done on the grounds of the Y. And it was some of our local students who both graduating high school and some Princeton University students who came together to put together the whole thing. And I want to thank you, Mayor Lampert, publicly for doing the proclamation declaring June 19th of 2020, Princeton's very first Juneteenth. And I had the honor of presenting that declaration with my colleague, Councilwoman Leticia Fraga. So just wanted to put that into the record. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And Councilwoman Sachs?
Yes, this year we have a new liaison position, which is Liaison to Sustainable Princeton, and I was really excited to be the first council member to have that position. And we had the annual Sustainable Princeton board retreat this weekend, and there was a lot of good thinking and visioning about how to support the municipality and the community in the area of sustainability. And I think I'll talk more about it at a subsequent board meeting when we don't have such a packed agenda. But I just wanted to underscore to the Councilman Perrin-Lambro's point and yours, Mayor Lampert, about the reopening of the streets, that there was such excitement at the board retreat about the possibilities that opened up for the town. And a number of people talked about their experiences with COVID, and that one of the silver linings was that it made possible sort of a crack and an opening for really amazing activity that many people have wanted for a long time in the town, and now somehow you were able to make it happen. And so one of the priorities that was articulated in the retreat, and I'm just going to read this, was building on the momentum with the opening of the streets to reimagine our central business district in a way that captures and utilizes more outdoor space for people-centered activities. So that is just a vote of enthusiasm and excitement and confidence in and appreciation for all the work that you've done to reopen the streets.
Great, thank you. Were there any other council reports? I had a couple. One, I just wanted to piggyback off of Councilman Williamson's report about the rec board meeting. And one of the concerns that the rec board is just trying to grapple with opening the pool is that it's likely going to cost some amount of money because it's a shorter season and because they are going to have to use some amount of staff and at limited capacity. And so one of the ideas or sort of questions that came up at the meeting was whether council would be willing to help to either subsidize that if the board were to face a loss, either through delaying their annual payment that they make towards the pool, the debt service on the pool, to sort of give them a break on that and then extend their payment to the very end, or to in some other way help to subsidize any losses they might incur. So I think it's something to, I think it's just, there's no specific proposal, I don't think at this point. I think it's just something that council should be aware that the rec board might come back with that request. In addition, I also just wanted to let people know that on the state level, the reopening plans are really starting to move. So today, Governor announced that outdoor gatherings can now increase from 100 to 250 people with no limit for outdoor religious or political activities, and that indoor gatherings can now take place up to 100 people if it's at 25% capacity, and that starting Thursday, July 2nd, indoor dining can resume at 25% capacity. And I was on a call with the governor's office staff right before we started our council meeting, and they said that basically today's announcement was the beginning of what we should expect to be a number of announcements potentially throughout the rest of this week and into next week, where we're going to see a growing number of reopenings and a loosening of restrictions. And I have to say that I think that Princeton has been doing an amazing job of practicing social distancing and of being really careful. And I think that's reflected in the case numbers. But that I think we just have to continue to be vigilant, and that there can sometimes be a misinterpretation of the loosening of restrictions, and that none of us should assume that there's anything different now with the virus than there was back in February or March. It's still highly contagious, and we need to be really careful to protect ourselves and our families and our friends and the rest of the community. So, hopefully we can figure out a way to straddle this line where we're still really careful and don't have to be hermits inside our own homes, because there's a cost to that too. But it's like, I think we all want to see these reopenings happening and continue to stay open, but it's really dependent on everybody's ability to keep themselves healthy. So hopefully that will continue to be the case. And let's see, I feel like I might have had one more announcement, but oh yeah, I know what it was. There was a question that came in at the end of the public statements that I just wanted to address now. So it was from India Gupta. What does it mean to declare racism a public health emergency? What actions are being taken as a result? Do we have emergency funds to address that crisis? And I can address that by just talking about what was in the resolution that council passed. And then if Ms. Fraga wants to add anything to that, she can. So the first was just an acknowledgement that council made that that racism has a horrible impact in so many ways, but it also has a public health impact. And so we've committed to conducting an assessment of our internal policies and procedures to ensure that racial equity is a core element of all municipal departments, that we are going to advocate for relevant policies that support local, state, regional, and federal initiatives that advance efforts to dismantle systemic racism, that we're committing to reviewing ordinances through a racial equity lens, and that we'll be conducting human resources, vendor selection, and grant management activities with a racial equity lens, and identifying goals and objectives, including specific benchmarks to assess our progress. We're going to be working with the Civil Rights Commission on all of this. And in the interim, we found that there are several tools out there that can help us. And so we've asked CRC to review those tools so we can pick the one that's best suited to Princeton.
And Mayor, if I may add, those tools have been shared with the Civil Rights Commission in anticipation of they're actually going to be meeting tomorrow starting at 6 p.m. The meeting's open to the public for anyone interested in hearing what the Civil Rights Commission will be discussing and maybe considering and this is just the beginning of the process of the Civil Rights Commission. Usually what happens is there's a subcommittee of the commission that will then work on researching best practices, what other communities may already have done, and also looking, reviewing the toolkits that are available, and then making recommendations to mayor and council on policies and other things that we should consider. But again, that's tomorrow starting at 6 p.m. The link to the Zoom web link is available on the municipal website in the calendar section, and also the page of the Civil Rights Commission.
Great. And there was another question that came in on this from Natalie Levine, and the text of the resolution is available on the website. It's part of the agenda packet from June 8th, 2020. So if you go into meetings, find the June 8th agenda and you want to look at the full packet, and the resolution number is 2195. And you
Mayor,
can see the text of it there.
Sorry for interrupting, but perhaps it would also be a good idea for us to ask our webmaster to post it on the Civil Rights Commission webpage.
I think that would be great. Can you follow, if you can follow up on that?
Yes,
I think
we'll
that would be
follow up
great.
on that. Thank you.
Okay, super. And are there any staff reports?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I think we lost our health officer. Oh, no, there you are.
I'm here.
Sorry. Sometimes the Brady Bunch thing is hard to keep track of.
I'll try to speak up, but no, yeah, no reports, Mayor.
Okay, all right. Then we're going to move on to the set of ordinance introductions we have in front of us tonight. And before handing it off to Michael Sullivan for any comments he might have, I wanted to start with Council President David Cohen to see if he wanted to just help frame what this is tonight and why it's important, and how we got to where we are.
Thank you, Mayor. So basically, there are three ordinances that we're looking at tonight. One is for the Central Business District and is a part of our fair share settlement agreement, intended to go to unmet need from the former borough that is a carryover even from the second round of affordable housing development. So we've actually worked with a local citizen group who had some good ideas about how to improve the original outline of this ordinance that was developed with our former consultant, Burgess Associates. And we feel like it's really in good shape to both encourage development of mixed use, including dwelling units in that nice walkable center of town. At the same time, it's geared toward preservation, not only of the structures that are in the actual historic district in Jugtown, but also a couple of proposed historic districts that stretch along Nassau Street. So I think it's a really nice approach. Second is the ordinance, I believe, for the site that's on the corner of Harrison and Terhune. It's an undeveloped lot right now. People, almost everybody's aware of it. It's used to be part of the shopping center. Actually, it was split off at a certain point and has been sitting undeveloped for a while. It's going to be a mixed use, an inclusionary project with market rate units and a number of affordable units. The number of affordable units is set at a minimum of 12. And I think there's not all that much that's interesting about this particular ordinance. It's just multifamily housing that'll be going on that site. And then the third ordinance is to look at encouraging, again, mixed use development in what is known as the S2 zone, which is one of our service zones in town. It's towards the bottom of the hill as you approach the Princeton Airport along 206. And people know it as an area where we have Bottle King or, a tire place or, electrical contractors, office building, a lighting shop. And we just see it as with the other affordable housing that's already going in near to that location as an area that's really ripe for encouragement of walkable multi-use development. And so this is an overlay zone that, similar to the AHO zones on Nassau Street, is meant to encourage mixed use development of housing over commercial uses in the hopes that we'll really develop a vibrant walkable center for not only the affordable units that are already slated to go in, but for market rate development as well. I think that's a pretty good summary.
Great, thanks. And Michael Sullivan, did you want to add anything to that? For those of you who don't know, Michael's been our consultant who's been helping us with our affordable housing plans and ordinances.
I don't have much to add to that. I will say that all three of these ordinances are in fulfillment of your settlement. The AH4, which is the S2 zone overlay, and the Terhune Harrison AH5 are exactly the way the settlement talks about them in terms of the production of units and the densities that are required. The AHO actually evolved a little bit. The 1, 2, and 3 that are in the former borough have evolved a little bit in terms of their extent. Within the settlement plan, it listed fewer lots, and in moving forward and refining the ordinance, it was thought that the expansion of some of those properties could actually help facilitate more comprehensive redevelopment within those areas. So it actually does include a few more properties. And so saying that, that's something that we will have to explain at the compliance hearing, but it shouldn't be a problem to explain that you're creating more opportunity for affordable housing within a place that it would be welcome. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the individual requirements within here or any of the other details for any of the council members or public.
Okay, great. And I'll also say that all of these ordinances I think advance the larger goals that we had talked about, which was creating opportunities for affordable housing in a way that is part of smart growth. So they're by shopping, they're by transit, and they're walkable. And I think almost all of these cases to all those things: services, shopping, and transit, which is important. So we'll start with the first ordinance, Ordinance 2020-17, an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 17A, Article 11 of the Princeton Code, entitled Land Use and the Princeton Zoning Map, to create an AHO1 Affordable Housing Overlay Zone, an AHO2 Affordable Housing Overlay Zone, and an AHO3 Affordable Housing Overlay Zone, and the regulations associated thereto in the municipality of Princeton. And are there any questions for Mr. Sullivan on this ordinance? And not seeing any, and I'd just like to open it up. We will be having, assuming this gets introduced tonight, a formal public hearing, but wanted to give the public who's tuning in tonight an opportunity if anybody had any comments or questions on this. And I'm not seeing any, so is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Owen? Seconded by Ms. Sachs. Any final discussion? Okay, wait, we did get a comment from Hirakesh Samayaji. Where will these affordable housing zones be located? So that was reviewed earlier, but we can do it again. So the AHO, the three that we're talking about for this ordinance are all located on and around Nassau Street, from starting around Moore, extending just past Harrison. Yeah, Ms. Niedergang?
As somebody who has a lot of trouble taking words and putting them into geographical context, I would like to say that the maps that are attached, if you're able to pull up the packet and look at the end, there are some super useful diagrams showing where each of these zones is and showing it in context to where it is in Princeton as a whole. So I found those very helpful. So Michael, if you're responsible, thank you, or to whoever is. And I would urge, those in the audience who are looking at this and who are not sure where things are, to take a look at the maps. It's really helps you understand what's going on.
And I think Mr. Cohen talked about this already, but just to reiterate, the ordinance still calls for the first floor to be commercial, so either retail or restaurant, office, or commercial use, and the multifamily housing is really for the upper floors for each of these buildings. And in addition, oh, go ahead, Mr. Cohen.
Just a minute clarification, but the third overlay zone, AHO3, which is located actually adjacent to the Jewish Center, does not require commercial on the ground floor.
Correct.
All right, yeah, thank
That
you.
can be entirely residential.
Okay, so the ordinance has been introduced and seconded, and I'm not seeing any further comments or questions. So I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Ms. Perrone Lambrose,
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Fraga,
Yes.
Mr. Williamson,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs.
Yes.
So the ordinance has been introduced, and the public hearing for this ordinance will be on July 13th, 2020. Next ordinance is ordinance 2020-18, an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 10B of the Princeton Code entitled Land Use and the Princeton Zoning Map to create an AHO4 affordable housing overlay zone and the regulations associated thereto in the municipality of Princeton. Are there any questions or comments from council on this ordinance? Nope. Okay. Is there a motion to introduce?
I will move, or second, whichever.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Cohen and seconded by Ms. Fraga. And just want to ask again if there's any comments. I'm assuming, Mr. DeShield, you're monitoring the email and you'll let me know if there's an email that comes in. So hearing nothing, I will ask Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Perrone Lambrose,
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Fraga,
Yes.
Mr. Williamson,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs.
Yes.
Okay, so this ordinance has also been unanimously introduced, and the public hearing will also be on July 13th, 2020. Next is ordinance 2020-19, an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 10B of the Princeton Code entitled Land Use and the Princeton Zoning Map to create the Affordable Housing Zone 5, AH5, delete Chapter 10B 364, residential cluster requirements for developments, including moderate income housing in the RSM district, and the regulations associated thereto in the municipality of Princeton. And this is this ordinance pertains to what Council President Cohen was describing as a development on the corner of Terhune and Harrison. Are there any questions or comments from council on this ordinance? Okay, and I want to leave it open for a minute if there's any questions or comments from members of the public on this. Seeing none, is there a motion to introduce? Moved by Mr. Cohen, seconded by Ms. Niedergang. Any further discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Perrone Lambrose,
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Fraga,
Yes.
Mr. Williamson,
Yes.
Ms. Sacks.
Yes.
Okay, this ordinance has been successfully introduced and the public hearing will be on July 13th, 2020. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, there's a large set of ordinances that the council will be passing or that the council will be holding public hearings and voting on July 13th. And so the second set of introductions are going to come before us next Monday night on June 29th. Okay, now we move on to resolutions. The first is 2207, resolution authorizing the submittal of a fiscal year 2021 municipal aid grant application and execution of a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for improvements to Witherspoon Street between Green Street and Franklin Avenue, MA 2021 improvements to Witherspoon Street 00490. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Ms. Sacks, seconded by Ms. Niedergang. Any questions or comments on this? All right, well, we just wish Ms. Stockton luck on obtaining this grant, and all in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes unanimously. Next is 2208, resolution authorizing an extraordinary and specifiable service contract with R&D Consulting for information technology support from June through December 2020, not to exceed $50,000. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Ms. Sacks. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Fraga. Are there any questions or discussion on this, Mr. Cohen?
I'm just curious, is this connected with the upgrades to the network that we approved the expenditures for last week, or is this a separate consulting agenda?
This is the continuation of their support for IT. They support the larger scale projects. And we've had a contract ongoing with them since 2018, 2019. And they provide the expert opinions on some of those projects and then the oversight with regards to the contracts that come in for larger projects like the server upgrade.
Okay.
One thing I do want to do just to give council an update. As you know, last week you passed the resolution authorizing us to go into contract with Dynatech. They have ordered the equipment needed for the upgrades. Once that equipment arrives, we will have a estimated time for the revamp of the server system.
Okay.
Thanks.
So all in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes unanimously. And now we come to the consent agenda, which contains items of a routine nature passed by a single vote. Although I actually would like to pull out 2211 to discuss, and then we'll take the rest of the consent agenda. So this is resolution 2211, resolution rejecting bids for police body worn cameras, police vehicle mounted cameras, police interview room recording system, and web accessible digital evidence management system. And the reason why this bid is being rejected is because it turns out we are going to be able to make the same purchase through a cooperative, a co-op we belong to. So it just is a better financial situation to go through the co-op. So it will, and Mr. DeShield, if you can explain, I think because it's through the co-op, we don't need to go out to bid again, but this will be coming back to council for approval. Is that correct?
That is correct. Because they are an approved co-op, we will be able to go out to them without bid. So we'll be working through the co-op this time for the purchase. That will come back to council along with the ordinance for funding for the cameras.
Ms. Niedergang?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I My understanding was that we were hoping to go live with the body cameras for each member of the department, at least those who are patrolling, as opposed to those who are sitting at a desk in the department in July. And I'm wondering what the effect of changing the way we're purchasing the equipment might have on that deadline or that goal, if any.
Actually, the projected date was August. We still expect to
Sorry.
be on point for August.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Ms. Lambros?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, I know that the has been testing out the equipment. There was no obligation then on the part of the equipment manufacturer that we were using to test it? So it was, or did that come directly from the manufacturer and this is a third-party bid? How did that work, Mark? I was a little confused.
That's correct. There was no obligation when we did the test to actually purchase. We would have to either go out for bid, but actually we also found it on the cooperative, so we can go directly to that vendor.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Bid process, we weren't guaranteed to have to go. That vendor would be the vendor that would be selected.
You answered my other question, Ms. Niedergren.
And I just want to thank the police department for checking up on this and finding us the best price. Sometimes when you go out to bid, it's cheaper. Sometimes when you use the co-op, it's cheaper. So this is, I think, an important purchase that we're making, but we do want to do it in a cost-effective way. So I want to give a shout out there. Ms. Niedergang?
I'm sorry, one more quick question. The bids ranged that were shown in the this resolution ranged roughly in the $500,000 and up. And do you have any idea what are we saving by going through the co-op, or any idea what the?
I actually don't have those numbers in terms of
Okay.
what the final numbers would be, but we can report back to council.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments on this? I don't think it's been moved yet. So is there a motion to approve? Moved by Ms. Lambros, seconded by Ms. Niedergang. Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution passes unanimously. And next we come to the consent agenda, which contains items of a routine nature passed by single vote. Are there any items anybody would like removed from the consent agenda? Nope, so it's been moved by Ms. Niedergang, seconded by Ms. Fraga. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent agenda passes. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved
Second.
by Mr. Cohen, seconded by Ms. Niedergang. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wow.
Mayor,
Meeting
can I
adjourned
just,
before 8 o'clock. Yes.
there might be another comment on the
Oh,
Q&A. I'm sorry, I just noticed that the number had increased, so maybe.
no, I think maybe there
dealt
was
with
one.
that?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, no. Okay, yeah. Sorry. So we'll get to these real quick. Who were the members of the Citizens Advisory Group that David Cohen mentioned? How were they chosen? Do you know what that refers to?
I mentioned that we worked with a group to refine the AHO overlay. The group was Princeton Progressive Action Group. And I think it's an open sort of volunteer organization in town that is, membership is open to anybody who's interested in joining. And they approached us with ideas about how to improve the ordinance. So that's the background on that.
One thing
Right,
would
and
say,
I think-
Mayor, one important thing, as part of our settlement, they were one of the interested parties in the settlement agreement and actually came into court. As part of our settlement, we indicated that we would speak with some members of the group in terms of some of the suggestions that they made. So that's another reason why they were part of this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mark.
and I can't remember this, but that question came from Michael Floyd, and the next comment or question comes from Friarkesh Samai. What is the name of the co-op from which the cameras and equipment will be purchased? And I just looked that up, and it is called Sourcewell. Oof. Okay, so is there another motion to adjourn the meeting? Because I feel like we should adjourn again. Yeah, Ms. Niedergang, is there a second? Ms.
Thank
Lambros, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the meeting adjourns at 8 p.m. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Right.